Hey guys, this is AlphaTraveler1. We are live at some of these things here. This week, doing a stream, bringing you to Airplane Museum. Marianne, how are you? Slot Machine Lover, Priscilla, how are you? Now check this out. I've never seen this type of plane before. The air intake is on top. How cool is that? Priscilla, how have you been? Marianne, how are you? Tiffany Johnson, how are you? Thanks for joining. I am, we're not in Disney today. We are actually just doing a really quick stream, bringing you guys to the Pima Air and Space Museum. Spy plane in the past. If you look at this. Tiffany, how are you? Thank you for joining. And look at the size of this thing. This was one of our biggest spy planes, the most successful, I think. Really, really cool. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, here, Top, how are you? Thanks for joining. We're coming from the Pima Air and Space Museum. Look at this bad boy. Steve, how are you? Look at those missiles. So guys, this is the Warthog. Okay, so this is one of my favorite planes when I was growing up in high school. So this is what they call a tank killer, simply because the ornaments that goes under the wings generally goes and blow up tanks. It's crazy. Hey Rose Time, how are you? And if you look at the nose here, there's something called a Gatling gun. And look at the size of this thing. The bullet is probably the size of a person's forearm. Marianne Hernandez, how are you? Welcome. Our Disney Adventures, how are you? Thanks for joining. We're coming live from the Pima Air Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona. Just bringing you guys to show you guys some of the stuff that's really cool. You will never ever see this in Disney. And let's go outside. I'm going to show you how many planes this place has. These are all warplanes. Eva, how are you? Eve? Every one of these are warplanes. And then you see the blue plane right there. That's one of the Blue Angels. Take a look at this. It's humongous. TTA. For now, how are you? Thank you for joining. We are coming live from the Tucson Pima Air and Space Museum. And I'm showing you some of the warplanes that are out here. This place is humongous. I mean, from looking at everything here, they said there are enough planes probably here to probably have billions of dollars in planes just here alone. Now, across the street is the U.S. Air Force Base Boneyard. Didn't have time to kind of apply to get in, so we're not going to go there. But what I was told is that there are trillions of dollars of military hardware there. But looking at this, here is more and more. I mean, enough for us to kind of get an idea what is out here. Who would have known there are so many types of planes? So this is gonna be really, really cool, guys. Stay here a second. I'm gonna show you something that people would never ever see if you weren't even here. So we actually have, how many people remember the airline called TWA? Trans World Airlines, very defunct, right? This is one of their first planes donated here, and it's a propeller. How crazy is that? Got some old planes, but it's really, really cool. I mean, you just think about this, right? This is one of the first TWA planes. This is history, guys. Ones. They're playing every plane that they go on. It's called Air Force One. They have really some cool planes and technologies. There are multiple Air Force Ones here. I'm going to show you, which is really cool. Now, you see that big old thing? I think that's C-130 or something like that, but it's a huge bomber. So we're going to turn here. There are two Air Force Ones that the former presidents of the United States were flown in. Or three, actually. If you look at this little one right there, that one is one as well. So here's a little one. I don't know which president that is, but that's a little plane. Who are they gonna bring, you know? Here's a bigger one. It's an older time. And then there's one next to it. Let's see. So let's look at, there you go. This is history, guys. How cool is that? For those of you who like windy. So this is a Boeing. It doesn't say which presidents flew in this, but this is another Air Force One, guys. Very cool. And back here, there's some planes that just you're like, how did they design this? And then there are World War II planes, right? So these are World War II bombers. And look at those behemoth right there. Look at that thing. I mean, just looking at this thing itself, I mean, if you were here alone yourself, you know, walking around, this thing is ginormous. Could you imagine one of these that are coming through and, you know, you can see it and it's just doing some sort of, you know, transportation bombing campaign? Crazy. So, here is a cruise missile. I've never ever seen one before. Or a drone, rather. Here we go. That's pretty cool. Hey, Juan. Thanks for joining. Fire Princess, how are you? So this is a drone. I've never ever seen one before, but I thought I'd kind of show it to you. It looks so cool. So this is the Pima Air and Space Museum, guys, that I am in. So I'm here taking a quick vacation for myself. And I'm in Tucson, Arizona. And look at the giants out here. These are World War II bomber planes. Look at the size of that thing. Now look at this thing. This doesn't even look like a plane. Look at that little tiny thing on the nose. My guess is that's a radar. Hey Brenda, how are you? Welcome. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, in the Pima Air and Space Museum, showing some of these bombers and tankers and stuff like that. How are you? So this thing is an airlift, so it says Military Airlift Command. Look at the size of these wheels. Just to give you an idea, right? This wheel here, if you look at, so I'm 5'8". If you could imagine the top of the wheel here, that goes up to my shoulders. Each one of these are probably about 5 feet. So I'm going to show you some real crazy stuff. Take a look at that big old balloon looking thing. See that there? We're going to see that later, but I've never seen a balloon plane. Well, it's not a balloon plane. My assumption is that it's a transportation of some kind. But isn't that crazy? So let's take a look at some other neat stuff, neat type of planes. Now these are all World War II type of planes, but they're humongous, some of these. That big thing. Oh my goodness. That's like a 3-story condo in there. Look at how big this thing is. This is the U.S. Coast Guard plane, which is really cool. They retired one, but they use versions of this still. So if you ever see what a Coast Guard plane looks like, you've never seen it, here it is. Let's take a look at these humongous. You know, looking at this, you would think this is a Star Wars or Star Trek type of plane. You know, you got the Klingons or whatever. Look at that. Hey, come on. This would fly even. This could fly. I mean, look at this. Looks like a damn home in there. How crazy is that? Isn't that crazy? Who would have thought this thing could fly? So there are actually more. So most of these are, you know, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. Very cool stuff. But, you know, for those of you who have never been to one of these museums, even the World War II planes are humongous. I mean, when we started this this stream, showed you some of the really big US fighter planes and the guns that they carry. Yeah, well, they're big. So really interesting. So there's actually another US Air Force One. So for those of you who just joined, Air Force One is a plane that carries a president, and this is another one. Those things are humongous. These are the big monsters coming up. So take a look at the Pima. They're not even anywhere registered. Think about how big that plane is. You're going to hear a lot of wind noise. Really windy here today. Check this out. Look at that hump. That's a radar hump. My guess is this is a radar plane. take a look at technology, take a look at the stuff that the war, that the countries in the world have used in wars. Who would have thought there were so many types of weaponry? Like as an example, this one is German. How cool do these things look? You know? Hey Mickey Bunch, how are ya? So guys, for those of you who just joined, we are at the Pima Air and Space Museum. Houses some of the biggest and baddest looking peaceful planes in the world. And one of the first things we saw was a old TWA retired prop plane. Who would have known that TWA, the name, is still around in the museums? And it keeps going. So what you see here, these fighters here, are Korean War time planes. And what you see over here, the first two, I think these are MiG, the MiGs, Russian MiGs. So this is a MiG-15, commonly used by Koreans in Korean War and Vietnam War. And this is a Chinese version, I believe, of the MiG-19. And again, these are all the MiGs here. So interesting stuff is you're going to see one of the most beautiful planes, in my opinion. One of the most powerful MiG-29. This thing here is beautiful. Look at this. Look at the shape. How cool is that? Hey Derek and Greg. Thanks for joining. We're in the Pima Air and Space Museum, the biggest Air and Space Museum of wartime and wartime planes. Right across is all the helicopters. Now, how many of you remember the TV show called MASH? Well, take a look at this. This is a Huey with the red cross. So So this is one of the Coast Guards as well. I mean, these monsters, they're, you know, out in the sea trying to save some of the boats, you know, the fishermen, if they go down. So this is it. This big old monster. But let's look at something else. These are, so down here, these are either World War II or Vietnam or Korea. Weird looking. But one of the most powerful looking and one of the most, one of the most beautiful wartime helicopter right here. I'm going to show you one, and this is the United States. This is one of the Sikorsky helicopters. Look at the size of this thing. You need to shoot things down. So they asked a bunch of artists to, hey Florida fanatics, look what they did to a plane. How cool is that? They put art and design on it. Who would have thought, you know, painting a plane like this would actually look pretty cool. So there's two of them, or three of them actually. I think there's one down there. So everything is about art. Now, let me show you something that is made by Russia, which is feared by many nations. This helicopter is called the Hind gun plane. Look at this thing here. You see the wings on there? Not for show. They got areas where you could start shooting missiles. You could put gun ports. How cool is that? And if you look at this, there's a Gatling gun. These Gatling guns, they shoot about 100 or 200 bullets per minute. Yeah, you're not gonna get away with it. So this is the Hind. Look at that. So this is widely used who want to know a little bit about history. Here's something which most of us will never ever see. Look at this helicopter. It's got a cockpit and nothing else. How many of you could actually say you've seen this? So what's cool about this is that this helicopter, you could, underneath, you could lift multiple tanks and different things here. You see that? Take a look at this. So here's the bay, here's the clamp. So there are different types of helicopters out there. Holy moly. You know, you will never ever see if you're not here. So how many of you remember the Gulf War, where the US shot cruise missiles? Well, I'm going to show you what they look like. They actually have one of these here. Hey Cargo, how are you? Jeff, how are you? Thanks for joining. Those of you who just joined, we're in the Pima Air and Space Museum, some of the biggest purveyors of military and non-military planes and or missiles and stuff like that, which is really cool. I actually find this exciting. So what you are seeing here straight, there's a white looking thing there. That's a cruise missile, guys. I remember when I did the tour here a few years ago, they said these are the things that we shoot into Iraq. At least that's what they were saying. So don't quote me on it, but that's what they said about that. And here is very interesting. These are missile systems. I didn't think that they would be considered air and space, but I guess it is, because you could shoot it into the air, right? And they fly. So here we go. So how many of you have seen planes that you have never seen before on this tour? And this is not even the end of it, guys. Just a side note, if you haven't hit the like, please hit the like. You know, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe. You know, for more of these type of tours and live streams. You know, for those of you, many of you asked, you know, if I'm purely a Disney Channel. I'm not. Alpha Traveler. I like to travel. I like to go to places that just a little different. And then, you know what? I love my Disney. So I will. Disney will always be my primary. But I'm going to bring you to places like this to show you that. Show you all different things. So there's more things. And I believe this is probably Mariner. So it's just very interesting to see the designs. And then as you go further down, you're looking at probably post World War II and World War II prop planes. Oh my God, take a look at this. How cool is this? These things are ginormous, by the way. This thing is one bad looking fighter plane. You see this coming? You're probably not gonna live to see another day. But so there we go. So there's a Boeing Dreamliner that's on loan here. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dreamliner is actually, you know, those planes that we currently still use. Here it is. Very interesting. You have the really new. So ANA is a Japanese airline. So this theoretically, if it hasn't been stripped already, it could still fly. And over here you got the F4 Phantom. So this plane usually in Vietnam have those tiger teeth in the front. And what you see down here, these big extra things, these are called drop tanks. And what it is that this carries extra fuel. As you could imagine, right? This warplane takes a lot of gas. Well, in order to be able to compete and be able to fight, they need extra gas. So they have these drop tanks. So what they will typically do in a dogfight in Vietnam, they're lighten the load, they could start dogfighting. So those are the drop tanks. They put extra gas in there. So this is the Dreamliner, but it's been gutted. Fuel deafening devices behind it. So this one is probably junked. So that's really those three planes right there. This one here, there's one, and then one smaller one on the side. They carried the United States presidents in the past. Look down there, for those of you who are late joiners. Right there in front, there's an old TWA. Oh man, look at the wingspan on that thing. Okay, and look at the person walking. It's like a little ant. Oh my God, I can't imagine seeing those things fly in, dropping in, and you know, doing their jobs or whatever. But isn't that crazy? So guys, I think that's really it for now. This is the part that I'm going to show you, and you know, and there's other parts, but you know, this is definitely a acquired taste. So I'm not sure I'm gonna continue that much longer, but if you look at this, we're walking straight towards it. Look at the size of that thing. If you look at the people under the propeller, humongous. one other plane I want to show you guys. So you guys heard of NASA, right? National Airspace Administration, I think it is. One of their planes are here. Very cool thing. Could even fly. So, yeah, I have no idea how some of these things could fly. Look at the bulb on this. So you're looking at it from the straight on. I mean, for me, I'm just thinking like, man, there's just so much drag on it. I mean, how does it fly? But look at the size of the engines for those big ones. But here's a NASA planes. There's two of them. Who would have known NASA owned their own planes, huh? So here's one, here's another one. My guess is this Learjet here is probably for the executives, NASA executives. And this one's probably doing something for research, you know, moving stuff, moving equipment. So, yep. Ooh, it is hot out here, guys. So, really, that's it. I wanted to kind of show you some really cool stuff, which we did. And, you know, I am going to, I guess, Old Tucson, which they have a mock roller coaster. I may, depending on how the lighting condition, I may stream there just to show you some ghost town in Arizona somewhere. Here we go. This is Pima Air Space Museum. So thank you all guys for joining and supporting. So everybody, I am going to sign out here and I'm going to go walk around and take a look at some of these monsters myself. Have a great day, weekend, and I will talk to you soon.